Speaking of getting slapped, let's get into our first topic of the day. Okay, we all saw everything that went down about a year ago with Chris Rock hosting the Oscars, Will Smith, Jada. She initially was receptive, joking, ha 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 ha. And then Will Smith snapped.
And he was
slapped.
laughing with her.
Yeah. He was laughing with her, and then finally they made the G.I. Jane joke, and it all, all hell broke loose.
Thanks.
My opinion is if he just took the joke in stride, all the entanglement, all the nonsense, the red table talk would have kind of come and gone, and Will Smith would have kind of been able to continue his career. Instead, he kind of embarrassed himself, did a slap Chris Rock. The rest is kind of history. So I want to play the clip of Chris Rock's special, of him addressing exactly what happened, and then we'll have a whole entire conversation on the other side of really the metaphor of what that's done for society and at large, and we'll get into an array of topics today. Stick with us here on Valuetainment. We got a lot to discuss today. Subscribe, like, be part of us. Nat will give you a shout out in a second.
Yes.
But with that being said, let's play this clip with the audio of Chris Rock addressing the slap heard around the world with Will Smith. Go ahead.
Can we zoom in?
And you can zoom in and make it
know
bigger.
what happened to me? Getting smacked by Suge Smith. People like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I got summertime ringing in my ears. But I'm not a victim, baby. You will never see me on Oprah or Gayle crying. And people are, well, you guys are fighting all the time. We're not fighting. First of all, I know you can't tell on camera. Will Smith is significantly bigger than me. We're not the same size, okay? Will Smith practices selective outrage. Practices selective outrage. Because everybody knows what the happened. Everybody that really knows I had nothing to do with that. I didn't have any entanglements. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. She hurt him way more than he hurt me, okay? Okay? A lot of people go, Chris, how come you didn't do nothing back? How come you didn't do nothing back that night? Because I got parents. That's why. Because I was raised.
All right. Well, he addressed it. I mean, he took a year to address what's going on here. So here's what I want to say and open up this conversation. The Chris Rock special about Will Smith and Jada. So there were 4 people, actually 5 people involved. You got Will, you got Jada, you got this dude, August Alsina, and then Chris Rock gets involved, and the 5th person involved is the rest of us now, because we can't stop talking about it. Society at large. So really what happened with them with this entanglement, it's sort of a metaphor for what's going on in society today. Masculinity, or toxic masculinity as it's been called, feminism and modern feminism and the pros and cons with that, the emasculation or feminization of men, who wears the pants in the family, respect, getting cheated on, embarrassment, the concepts of being the provider and the protector and protecting your woman and being there for your woman, all kind of encapsulated in this entanglement. So we're going to have a deep discussion on this right now. So now we all know Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What's going on with Will? I don't know if he's going back to live with his auntie and uncle in Bel-Air. Remains to be seen. But here's what I want to get your guys' opinion on. Crimson, I know you're not shy. What's your entire take on this entanglement situation? Who came out ahead? Who's looking like a loser? Men, woman, Jada, Will? What's your initial take?
Okay, so I did some content on it when it first happened, when he first slapped, when Will Smith first slapped Chris Rock. And my whole take on it was Jada. I'm like, she initiated that. She put, as I call it, a battery in Will Smith's back, and he marched himself up there and almost obliterated his entire career on a night that he was to be celebrated.
Right, because he did win the Oscar that night for King Richard, right?
Exactly.
This was supposed to be a celebratory night for Will that turned out to be a disaster.
Right, his crowning achievement in his acting career. And he does that. So now, when we take a look at what Chris is saying, Chris is right. He hit the nail on the head, really, because you being mad because you're already embarrassed, because your wife embarrasses you publicly on a regular basis, Do not take that out on other people. To me, Jada displays all of the characteristics of a narcissist, and I know everybody likes to throw that word around, but I mean that in a real way. She actually displays some of those characteristics, because Chris was right. You don't get interviewed by the person that hurt you, that cheated on you. That's narc stuff, you know. And then she gaslights him. It's an entanglement with August. Like, girl, you was sleeping with that man. That is not an entanglement, baby. And you can't get on camera and tell your husband in front of the world that you really wasn't. It was almost like, I really wasn't sleeping with him, but I was. In the end of it, Chris is right. Don't take that out on me. I'm glad that he mentioned him being raised as the reason why he didn't retaliate. I'm not getting in a fist fight on stage in front of the world because you jumped out the window and came and hit me.
So let me ask you guys a question, because nobody here has ever been interviewed by their ex after they get cheated on, right? This is a very new concept right here. By the way, we might do an episode here. Maybe I'll bring in an ex and fuck it, you know? Let's go. We're going for views here. Does anyone here think, like, who are the winners and losers in this scenario? Like, put yourself in Jada's shoes, if you will, Fosh. Is she, like, if you could, go there for a second.
I mean, I think everyone's losing at this point, because you have Chris, who's been humiliated on TV. You have Will, who's losing, like, you know, his reputation now, because now he has Chris talking about him. He has his wife who also is talking about him. I think everybody's losing at this point, to be honest. There's no winning. Nobody's winning in this situation. And now this is going to be, as long as we all live, this is going to be talked about. Like, this is going to be the fucking laughing stock of it forever.
Do you think winners and losers in this situation? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, as the old adage goes, all publicity is good publicity. And so you got millions and millions of people around the world that saw this. And so it puts attention on Will Smith's career, Chris Rock. Chris Rock obviously had the comedy special, and it was funny as hell. I mean, at the end of the day, they're all going to make more money because of it, just because people are paying attention to what they're saying and doing. But, I mean, Will Smith, even Chris Rock said, he looked like a bitch.
Yeah.
And if you saw, like, what happened when Chris Rock is roasting Jada about the G.I. Jane thing, Will Smith's looking over, they're all laughing. And then at one point, you know, Chris Rock keeps going, and then Will Smith's smiling. And then the next time the camera comes on Will Smith, you see him look at, you know, he's looked over at Jada, and because now she's got a pissed off look on her face. And then Will Smith has the demeanor and the body language is, oh, mommy's upset. Let me go do something, and hopefully I'll get an attaboy. And so he gets up on stage, because if you notice, when he smacked Chris, he was strutting. You know, he's like kind of pulling up his pants. He's got his arms out. He's like proud. Mommy's going to be happy with me.
He felt proud that he did that,
yeah,
you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. You could see it in his body language. And so as he walks back down, he's expecting to get an attaboy from her when he goes and sits back down.
Yeah, embarrassing. In my opinion, there's only one winner in this entire situation. That's Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Chris Rock was the biggest comedian in the world in the 90s. Before Dave Chappelle, there was Chris Rock. Before Chris Rock, there was Richard Pryor. We all know this stuff. Chris Rock, for you young folks out there, as big as it gets in the comedy world, he hasn't been that. He's been overshadowed recently by, you know, whether it's Kevin Hart, whether it's Chappelle, whether it's some of the up-and-comers out there, Theo Vaughn. Obviously, Rogan's massive these days. But Chris Rock was the #1 guy in comedy, and his career was sort of trending downward. Now, this is the best thing that's ever happened to his career. Getting slapped in the face at the Oscars could not have worked out any better for Chris Rock. Who is this not looking good for? Well, Will Smith, bro. You don't need any more publicity when you're one of the biggest movie stars in the freaking world. You're Will Smith, all right? You're Men in Black. You're Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all right? You don't need that extra publicity. This is not a good look for you. Jada, did many people was she even a household name to that extent? Now she's sort of the face of, like, toxic, controlling women, is she not?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then August Alsina, nobody knew this dude. Nobody knew this dude. Best thing in his life was banging a MILF. It's the best thing he could have done. Being a little provocative here. So, what were you gonna say?
No, nothing right now.
Okay. But he practiced selective outrage. That's kind of what Chris Rock was saying. that nobody's ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on you. Facts. What do you think he meant by selective outrage, Kendra?
Because why are you angry? Why take out whatever it was? And I agree with Coach. That was, oh, mommy's mad. That's why I said she's a narc, because she looks over at him after she was laughing. She was like, ha, ha, ha. She looks over at him like, now what are you gonna do? Because this guy just said something I don't like. The first part about it is I don't believe that she didn't like that. You do look like G.I. Jane. It wasn't about her. She tried to make it about her alopecia. It wasn't about her alopecia. It was about the fact that she resembled Demi Moore from that role.
Yeah.
That is what Chris Rock is talking about. If you're old enough, you know what G.I. Jane is. And so that was the selective outrage that I think Chris Rock is talking about. First, you're okay with everything. And then all of a sudden, it was sudden. It wasn't even like there was a ongoing, at that moment, Chris Rock making one joke at her expense after another. And there wasn't even a warning like, hey, you know, cool out on my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not funny. He's reading them. He's looking at them as he's telling the jokes, and they're laughing. Mm-hmm. So as a comedian in the business, as long as Chris Rock has been in the business, you have to read your audience in terms of your jokes. Are you offending them to the point where they don't think it's funny? Or is it just edgy and they still think it's funny and they're still engaged with you? He's been doing it long enough to understand. And when you're the host at an Oscars, your jokes are really tame. Your jokes are really tame.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
the
like
PG
he's at
version
his,
of
yeah.
your jokes.
So he wasn't going out of the box or out of control or anything like that. So that's the selective outrage I think he's talking about. And I would agree with that, because you're laughing at one moment and then the next moment you're up slapping him, and then they tried to, backpedal later and was like, oh, well, he always talks about her. He doesn't always talk about Jada. And Jada needs somebody to talk about her. Because since when was the last time Jada had a big role anywhere? Mm-hmm. Her biggest claim to fame is being Will Smith's wife.
Bingo. Mm-hmm. So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another. Or if you want to watch the entire Soscast, click right here.